my camera on. That ain't good. Let's see if I can fix that. Alright, so my camera got smaller. There it goes. Alright, so I don't know who's in here right now, but what you're gonna notice, and I'll make sure to zoom in so it's easy to read. The stream might be a little bit more distorted than normal because what I'm trying to do is change to a lower resolution in case people are getting errors and they cannot watch the video right now. This is only a Twitch issue. If you guys are going to be watching this on YouTube, you should be able to watch it without any issues. So if you're trying to watch this on Twitch, you may start you're going to start seeing errors. Let me know if it still looks okay. If it's too messed up, I could try to find and focus it in a little bit easier. But as you guys can see, if you're on your cell phone, it's probably not as bad. But the numbers and stuff might be a little bit more distorted than normal. And I'm like looking over at my second monitor, and it's much crisper and cleaner on my first monitor. It's the second monitor that's causing a little issue. But I don't know. Hopefully it's still going to be okay for you guys. I am doing 2 questions with you guys today for Math 12. Okay. So Hannah, when I'm zoomed out, does it look pretty distorted though? Like, can you read that 5x squared plus 53 okay if I'm zoomed out? Because I know you're on your phone. From my point of view, it just looks kind of hazy. Yeah, it does look a little blurry, doesn't it? I'll probably find something in between. I've been running at 720p HD, and some people were getting the error, so I switched it to 480 HP or HD, and this is what it's going to cause. So I'll see if I can find something in between, so maybe it'll look a little bit better. All right, well, we'll just kind of go with it then. All right, so it looks like a couple of you guys are in here. I'm just going to kind of go through the lesson. It's very, very similar. It's very, very similar to what we just did the other day. I apologize yesterday for anybody that was hoping to watch the video yesterday and not today, but I had to go pick up the puppy from the vet hospital. He is doing great, very energetic. I think he's upstairs sleeping again because he had a lot of shots and medication that he had to take yesterday. So, example number 1 is going to be almost identical to example number 2. So, in example number 1, yesterday, I said, or 2 days ago, I said, first we have to find the asymptotes. We have to find where the graph has no solutions. So in order to find those asymptotes, we have to figure out what H and what K is. So I'm going to try to color code it the way I did up top. So in order to find the H, I'm just going to rewrite this little formula. How about I do that? I'm going to bring this down here. So that's going to be y equals a over x minus h plus k. So in order to find the h and k, all we're going to do is figure out what numbers are in that place. H is always going to be opposite because if you guys look in the formula, it says x minus h. And when I said yesterday, when we were looking for that asymptote, we were looking for when x is equal to h. So we have to make sure we change to that opposite value. So in this case, our h is going to be positive 1. Okay? Because if you plug 1 in, or I should say x is going to be that positive 1 because h is negative 1, right? The h is right here. What we're really doing is we're just trying... Oh, I didn't know I could change the colors to this. I can hold a laser tail too. Ooh, it's so freaky. Okay, I won't do that. So anyways, we have that x minus 1, that x value, we're just trying to figure out what number can we plug into that with the h value that's going to make it 0, because we're not allowed to have 0 on the bottom. So x would have to be equal to 1 because that h is equal to negative 1. So right there, that is going to be our vertical asymptote. We also have to find our horizontal asymptote. And we set up top that y is equal to the k value, and the k value is just located here at the end. And I wrote that in purple. So y would be equal to 2 because that is your k value. So this is your k, and this is your h. And now all I'm going to do is just draw both of these on the graph, and when I draw them on the graph, I'm going to represent them by dotted lines because they are not solutions. So I got to put in my x and y axis like we did yesterday. I can't get this line to line up. It's going to be crooked for some reason. I'll try it again. I think the graph is just crooked. Oh well. So now I have at x equals 1, so I'm going to go over to positive 1. I'm going to draw in my dashed line at x equals 1 because there's no solutions there. I'm just going to write up top x is equal to 1. I didn't label them yesterday. I'll label them today. The other one is at y equals positive 2, so I'm going to go up to 2. I'm going to draw in my dotted line left and right there. So that's where the asymptotes are. Now our goal is to try and find which direction or where the graphs are going to be. So the easiest way to do the next part is just typing it right into the calculator, just like we've always done when we do graphs. So I'm just going to go to y equals, and I'm going to type in my fraction, which is 3 over x minus 1. That's a plus. And then plus 2. And I'm just going to hit graph. And my recommendation is anytime you're doing a graph on the iPad calculator, you have to push that zoom button that's down here at the bottom. So I'm just going to click on zoom, and I'm going to hit Z standard, and that will take us to a main graph. What we should see on this one is, unlike the one that we did in question number 1, it looks like our graph is falling in the top right. And I'm just drawing it in. It doesn't have to be perfect. Same thing, and it's going to be down here in the bottom left, and that's probably a bad graph. So I'm going to redraw that. Because you want to try to get as close to those dotted lines as possible without crossing, because they're not allowed to cross those, because they're asymptotes. So what we just drew is what we call a hyperbola. And again, if you guys need me to zoom in on that, just let me know. It's going to look a little distorted, at least for this video, but I'll make sure that it's fixed when we get into those future videos. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing on this last one. The last one's just going to be a little bit different because it's just a single fraction, and we're not going to be adding or subtracting anything from it. Okay? So what I'm going to do, whatever. Mr. B was sending an email, so it distracted me. So I'm going to come down and look at number 3 with you guys. And now in number 3, the graph or the function is a little bit different than what we had on the first page because there's no h and k this time. It's represented by ax plus b and cx plus d. Now, this one is going to be a little bit different than what we did on the front page because it is different. It's a different function. So we're still looking at the hyperbola here, but when it's all a single fraction, the asymptotes are being represented based on what I said in the next 2 sentences. So it says the vertical asymptote, it's very similar to what we just did on the previous page because the vertical asymptote is really just where the x value makes the denominator equal to 0. So just like we did on the first page, we're trying to figure out what number could we plug in for x that makes that bottom equal to 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that denominator of that 2x minus 4 because that is our denominator right here. And we're just going to set it equal to 0, and we're just going to solve it out. A lot of you guys are just going to look at this, and you're going to be like, Mr. Sadler, I know the answer is 2. but I'm just showing it out algebraically so you guys understand where it's coming from. So I'm just going to move the 4 over to the other side, and then I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and yes, x is equal to 2. So that is our vertical asymptote. Now, our horizontal asymptote is not a number that we're adding or subtracting at the end like the previous page. It's not just a k value. Because it's a single fraction, we can find the horizontal asymptote by taking the a value and dividing it by the c value. So this part right here is taking a over c. Well, if we look up here at our function, our a value is going to be a 1. And I'm going to have to zoom in there. I know I'm going to have to. So that's going to be 1, and then our c value is going to be 2. So when I go to look for the horizontal asymptote, I'm going to have y equals 1 over 2. All the rest is just going to be graphed just like we did on the previous page. The only real difference is finding the horizontal asymptote. That's the one different portion to this problem. So now, again, I'm going to draw on my x and y axis. And once I get those on there, what I'm going to do, I know that line's crooked. My graph is crooked, whatever. I'm going to have x equals 2, so I'm going to draw a dotted line at positive 2. So x is equal to 2. And we're also going to have one at 1/2. Now, 1/2 isn't going to be perfect. We're just kind of estimating where it is. Obviously, it's between 0 and 1, so I'm just going to draw in a dotted line between 0 and 1 and just say y is equal to 1/2. So those are the asymptotes. Our graph cannot cross those because there's no solutions there. And now I'm just going to type that function right into y equals and then graph it. So the top was just x plus 1, and then the bottom was 2x minus 4. Once I type it in, I'm just going to hit graph. If you're not seeing the whole graph, just remember you have to hit the zoom button, and then you go down to Z standard, and that will take you back to your main screen. So like the previous problem, you should see that this graph is falling in the top right and the bottom left. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to draw that in there. So I got my graph in the top right. Cannot cross those dotted lines. And I also have it in the bottom left. Now, technically, we could try to figure out what those exact points are, and we're not just going to estimate. I could go into the table and I can say, oh, look, I have 3, 2 is a point that I could have drawn. So I could have came over here and I could have counted over 3. I could have went up 2. And luckily for me, my little free sketch still hit that point. I could do the same thing on the other side. I could look at the negatives. I don't really see any nice ones, though, because it looks like they're all decimals. The closest one would probably be -1, 0. And based on how I drew my graph, they kind of all look like they're on 0. But I'm just plotting that point. I also had 1, -1. I could plot those if I want to. I'm not too worried about it. I just want to make sure that you guys understand the section that it's in. If you go to take pre-calculus in the future, they're going to ask you to plot at least, I think it's at least 2 points. I don't know if my wife is actually in here watching or what. I see she's moderating right now, but I don't know if she's listening because she's got the pup upstairs. But she just taught this to her class, and they have to at least graph 2 or 3 points. For me, I don't care. I'm just trying to introduce anything new or anything you could possibly see when you go into college. Okay? So that is all I got for you guys. Homework 9. It's got a mixture of stuff on there. As always, hit me up on Zoom. Hit me up through email, whatever you need to get your questions asked. Okay? So I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll be back on tonight because people want me playing video games, and I'm going to be bored, so I might do it anyways. So yeah, Hannah, I'll see you then if you're going to stop by. Otherwise, have a great weekend. Enjoy your evenings. It's just called Homework 9, I believe, Haley. So if you just jump in, I don't think I downloaded it yet. I'm going to get in trouble because I'm going to go into iTunes and it's going to pull up everybody's names. Oh, no, it's not. Sweet. So it is, yeah, it's just homework number 9. So if you guys just download that one, I can't actually click on it because it's going to bring up everybody in the class, and then I get in trouble for posting everybody's name to the internet, and then I'm going to lose my job. But yeah. So that's all I got. I will catch you guys later. Don't be afraid to contact me. I know you guys are pretty good about it. So, peace.